the Maximum Meathead Podcast. We are back with another episode of the Maximum Meathead Podcast. In this episode, Joel and I sat down with our good friend Aaron Voskamp. He works as a full-time EMT in London, Middlesex County, and worked full-time at the Grand Bend craziness that is the beach there. And really just has a lot of really neat perspectives on things. So we actually ended up having a conversation twice because the first time the batteries died on the Zoom, and lesson learned. But anyway, I think we covered everything the second time. But if there's anything that makes sense, or doesn't make sense, I suppose, it's because it happened in the first conversation and none of us remembered when we talked about what. So anyway, hopefully you guys enjoy this conversation, and if you do, let us know, and we'll talk to you again next time.
I think we should fly back into you turning into a paramedic, man. What guided you there?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Why don't we just... I'll just start. I'll just ask who the fuck you are, because first of all...
I guess I didn't even really
we didn't do an introduction.
No, we did none of that.
So why don't we just say, who are you? You've got Voskamp sitting here. Aaron, Vozzy, the man.
Vozzy.
I am Aaron,
So...
the Wizard of Voz. From the big old town of Goddard here where we are, on the Meathead podcast road style.
Yeah.
Down to JoJo's place here in God Rock, down by the beach.
You got it.
Born and raised down here. I ran into knowing, actually, I guess both of you in somewhat different regards, but then end up knowing you as a cooperative.
And now a pair of men.
Yeah, now a pair of men, a pair of platonic men.
We're talking about getting a dog eventually.
Yeah,
so we got plans for the long term.
Yeah, we did discuss it once.
Yeah, we did.
So I mean, I always enjoyed the Goddard music scene, and that's how I'd known of Muscle Bill. I don't think I'd actually known you. I'd known you as
people
as a
know
musician.
me.
Yeah, and it was really cool. And then I'd met Joel kind of. I think I was speaking of lifeguarding at the Y. I was quite young. I remember always seeing this fucking guy come in, and I was just like, everyone was super confused as to who this man was and why he's in Goddard. This gorilla man is.
Why is he punching the air so many times?
Yeah, and then he'd beat up the water a bunch with boards and shit, and we'd be like, wow, yeah, this guy's serious. So I think I eventually probably just introduced myself and started talking, because I always found even way back you always doing some really neat movement and resistance stuff. So yeah, that probably sparked my interest to introduce myself to Joel, and then later on was spending time with you doing some conditioning while you were living at Levis's, which Muscle Bill ended up living there. Which I think that's when I officially met you and was like, hey man, I watched you.
I know who you are. Fanboy. I like your old man.
Yeah.
I like my old man too.
And I remember doing a bunch of conditioning in the field and with
Blake. You were always keen on my workouts.
Because there's something that was obviously it was pretty cool that you were an MMA fighter and shit, and it was man, he's in good shape, what the fuck does he do? I guess we should he's welcoming us to do some conditioning. We should probably do that. So me and my buddy Blake Moore, I think we were always into coming and working out with you, and that he was that was actually
the
one
first
of the days.
session. Projectile vomit from this guy.
Yeah, and he was just down with it after he crushed I think he did a 3-egg sunny side up thing right before we worked out with Joel.
All right, boys, we're going in the field.
Sprints, pull-ups, and hanging sit-ups from soccer post.
Just grab heavy bags, run down the field, and throw it.
Yeah,
it was a good workout.
And I guess the relationships between everybody just carried on from that. Spent time at the gym with you and Joel, and again primarily kind of all together in that sense. And then always had a interest. It was I remember actually understanding the health issues that you were going through, and finally being able to understand those things. And that was even, I think, in some regard, I always found that to be a neat thing to be able to talk to you about too. So that's kind of, in one sense or another, our own little type of relationship, because it's
vein that not a lot of people can go down.
For sure. And to understand it's a very profound.
Do.
It's crazy. It makes it that much more profound of a thing. So again, that's a cool thing. And so we've again just been friends for years from that point. We share an interest in a lot of music and that.
Yeah,
We share an interest in a lot of fights and that. Like there's a whole and athleticism.
We ended up training so much, and you were in my corner for my last pro fight.
My
nutritionist and my health man. You got to have. I figure you have to have a diversity on your team, but you have to have one person that cares about you, that actually doesn't want you to die.
Yeah.
Like the other two corners, I know didn't care if I died in there, but I know Vozzy would be like, damn. He's gonna die. And this is not good.
It was just I remember one of the most profound things was, and I'm certain it was a punch from him, but like being 8 to 10 feet away from someone who gets socked in the face that hard, and you like feel the impact in your chest, like when you're at like a drag race and you feel the motors in your chest, and you're like, wow,
that's real.
Yeah, that was an impact. Yeah, that was his face and a big hard fist, really hard. Yeah,
wow. Yeah, it was sick, man. You made the best weight cut of my life. You kind of overlooked it, and you had all my meals ready. It took the stress off, all that.
Yeah, it was a really neat learning curve
man.
for
You know
me
your
too.
shit.
Yeah, that was really fun for me to even involve into that, to really just indulge into all the kind of physiology of weight cutting and being able to recover. I'm like, frankly, even to touch on that story, I remember because again, like it went really well, like, and to that effect initially, I almost thought I thought it had gone too well because he had you put on 12, 13 pounds like within 5-6 hours by the end of the day after the big cut. I mean, like it's not like
188 at one point, and I weighed in at 169, so 19 pounds.
And
same day.
It was nuts.
But I was like, "Are you okay?"
And, like I thought he was just gonna be like feeling real bloated and heavy, but we went and moved that night, which I think was really important. That kind of like put a lot of the storages into his muscles, and then he did a fucking 3 5-minute round fight and like crushed the entire time. Like
so it was all
I
good.
was just like, wow, like that. Yeah, that's energy storage. Is like
didn't kill him.
Yeah, like that's sick. Yeah,
survived.
Survived it.
First one success.
Yeah, so that was a really neat experience. I was super thankful for that.
It's funny though. We started out like, hey man, you like this working out stuff? You want to help me train? You didn't know shit.
No,
and I got to give you mad props because. It's not easy being the guy that doesn't know, let's say, wrestling, and I'm like, I got a fight coming up. You try to hold me on the ground, I would fucking go at Vozzy sometimes. Because Vozzy's a big dude. Like, obviously people listening don't know, but Vozzy's a big man. And even, you never found that until you seen the video the one time. It looked like a big monkey playing with a kid. Like, he had my back or something, and he totally engulfed me, and I'm just like this little ball, and he's like, I am pretty big.
It's funny. I don't perceive myself as big as I am at times. Because I suppose I am. Like I've been around big people my whole life. My brother's been taller than me. My dad's been bigger and taller than me. All my mom's brothers are bigger and taller than me. I'm just like,
I'm huge.
I'm like 6 foot flat, probably maybe 6'1". I'm not sure. I measured in time. I'm like, I guess like a pretty broad fella. Like I'm from a lot of the conditioning training, put on a lot of good muscle and
you're strong, stable, athletic.
I'm slimmer now. It's just I couldn't maintain that sort of musculature given my job and that too.
Dude, when you were training with me for like that straight, when you were laid off, we're doing 2-a-days.
Oh, dude.
You got huge, man.
Yeah,
you can tell your genetics are big fucking men.
Yeah, dude. Big Dutch, Polish, and Italian men. They're just they're just all big humans, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then again, that was a blast because it was prior to when I went to paramedic school, because that was kind of interesting enough to even touch on musicianship. I was in a band for a long time too. Amongst all this, I was like a big fume and hippie. It was great.
Big time. That's where you were, man.
Yeah, dude. And not that I've lost that, but I mean, obviously, there's a little it's changes. You develop. You evolve. Yeah,
sure.
Totally. And so I mean, I had come home from school at the time and was determining my way for other goals. Found out to do the paramedic program, which I was starting in January. So I finished the beach patrol, and I was laid off for that time. I couldn't find really much work in between that, and so we just trained. We just did a lot of jiu-jitsu and a lot of weightlifting. Like all the time.
Why weren't you at the Grand Bend Beach?
No, I was
again.
I was that
there.
summer.
Okay,
it ends September, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I think I tried to come back to the pool and quite frankly resented that place, but
So we recorded a little before and the batteries died, so we touched on a bunch of shit. But
Yeah.
just to kind of go back, so you were a lifeguard, and let's touch on that again. We'll just get back into your lifeguard into a paramedic now. I'm just kind of curious on some.
yeah. So I
some
mean, like
interesting
I'd
stories on
spent
that,
I'd spent a lot of time, spent 8 years down on the beach. I think about like 7 full time.
At Grand Bend.
Lucky, in Grand Bend with the Grand Bend Beach Patrol there. Lucky enough to have led the team for 2 years as a captain, which was a
Oh wow.
crazy experience.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Oh,
that was
dude.
really
Yeah.
cool. Which that's a whole story in and of itself.
I went and visited. Okay, listen to this. This is how much power is in this lifeguard cult. Sorry to interrupt you, but I would go visit Vozzy, and the rookie fucking took all his stuff out of his room and slept on the couch, and I got the rookie's room because I was the captain's friend. That was down in
everyone
Grand
just
Bend.
there's I mean like it's
He
not,
ripped
there's no
out the
belittling.
screen.
Yeah.
I needed a plug-in.
Right.
He ripped out the screen of his window and shoved a fucking
Yeah.
plug-in in there for me. He's like, "Is that all you need?" I'm like, "Holy fuck!" I'm like, this body's like, or Vozzy's like this beach fucking god, right?
Yeah.
And I mean like and there's never really an abuse of power. There's always like of course like there's always a building of character of people as rookies.
Right,
Like
right.
you always have to kind of build them up in a certain way. Sometimes that takes
It's team building
some
too.
assertive. Yeah.
Well, it's a part. That's a growing up spot for a lot of people. Right?
Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, I grew, and when I say grow up, like I mean, like you have to mature there, like the immaturity and
Yeah.
and silly things. Don't be wrong. There's a lot of silliness. There's a lot of fun and all that, but like, you have to be accountable. You have to be.
Right.
You have to be your own like responsible human, right? And so like we like to hold people accountable to that extent because that carries over on to the work too.
Absolutely.
Which again, like that camaraderie that you have to work at a place like that with ultimately so few people, like comparatively, like you go to Port Stanley, they like rock like a roster of like 20 guards.
Wow.
Like we, on a good year, have like 9 or 10 which is like 2 part-times.
And what about like population on the beach comparison?
Well, like I mean, it's honestly I don't know the numbers. I'm sure Stanley gets some pretty substantial numbers on a lot of the holidays too.
Right.
But like our big holidays, like July 1st, Canada Day is huge. Like easy 12,000 to 15,000 people there. Like no problem.
I don't
like
think
a
they
small
get
town.
that volume, man.
No.
That volume's crazy.
It is, and I mean it's obscene. And I mean, Grand Bend's changed as a town a little bit. There's still like the deep rooted culture there, but
Right.
it isn't as like you talk to our parents who went there, and it was a fucking time, man. Like
Right.
it was a
Yeah.
cool place, and it still is a really cool place for us. But it's changed a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Like I mean, and those people who enjoy that time have aged there, and now they have different expectations of the town. So I mean, things. But again, still always a very fun town.
It still has its rooted hippie culture
Totally.
between the guys. Like when you bring me to these little parties before the beach, like in the backyards,
Yeah.
where all the locals are,
Yeah.
like that. Those are the cool little spots in Grand Bend, man.
I mean that's even a part of it too. Is like the local culture there, man. Like everyone who works there and spends summers there, and a lot of people who do live there. Even there's a substantial population that hops back and forth from Revelstoke that like follows like the winter resort
Oh,
place,
that's dope.
right? Which
Yeah.
is pretty sweet. And it's a beautiful town to be involved in like the localism of it, if you will, right? Because there's like the little pockets of people that are just super down to be friendly and to welcome you in. Like if you're a friend of one of the locals, like they love it, right? They love to spread that like, check this out, like this is what we have here.
Right.
We love for you guys to come check this out and like experience it, right?
So to touch on the growth part a little bit, you mentioned a little bit before even how when you started, you're in the pool and then you went to Grand Bend Beach and that was like a major growth period for you as well.
Yeah.
Well, like, do you want to touch on that? Like, it's a huge sense of responsibility being responsible for up to 2,000 plus people just yourself,
Yeah.
like population.
Totally.
So over the course of 7 years, you're obviously getting older, but how does
Yeah.
that all?
Well, it was
What's some
interesting.
of your bigger takeaways?
I think like the pool, all really good foundational base knowledge and like learning to do rescue swimming, all those things, right? But it just wasn't the same intensity. And not that things needed to be intense, but obviously I thrive on intensity. I like it.
Yeah.
I like that. Like it. I think you need a certain degree of intensity to thrive in life to be able to overcome shit. Like you gotta.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you gotta flip the switch a little bit and be like, grindstone time. And so I remember going up to do the Waterfront Course with a couple of my buddies from from Goddard and from the Y, particularly one Adam Wendler, shout out to him, out in Germany doing his music thing.
Nice.
Yeah, singer of the old Fermented Oranges from the Times. Big shout out to him. So we went and did that. There's some other fellows like Stephen Lambert too, if you guys recognize, I'm sure you recognize that name. Fantastic athlete, awesome runner. Missed that dude, nurse as well. So shout out to him and what he's doing on the front line. So we went to the Waterfront Course. It was cool. It was super cool. It was with Mr. Scott Ruddle. He was actually my preceptor for my current job as a paramedic, as I was a student as well. So, and he taught me the basics as a lifeguard. Yeah. So I mean, he's been a real instrumental piece to my life to that extent too. So yeah, we did the Waterfront Course, and I remember at the end of the Waterfront Course, we got to hop up and do these like shadows in the towers with the guards. And I mean, like, man, and then like those guards, like when you looked up, like when you guarded them, like it was like here's these like dudes up like two in a tower, like there's you're in the middle of a course with thousands of people around you trying to do these things, right? Like, and obviously it's a little shaky off the start when you're trying to figure out how to flip people under a rescue board and that. And then you hop up there and you do like an hour, like, kind of half an hour intervals in different towers, right? And so I remember starting off in the central tower, and right off like the 11 o'clock of the tower, just like at the edge of the first sandbar. To explain people who've never been to Grand Bend, generally it has two sandbars. So you walk out a little bit, you can touch, trough, you got to swim 25 meters, depending on where you are on the beach, sometimes more. To second sandbar that like is generally waist deep.
It's like a recipe for drowning.
Yeah. It's the trough is our gravy, man. Yeah. Like that's
everyone thinks they can make it.
This is a huge sandbar.
Yeah. And then the funniest thing is, especially because you see it from out, people swim 2/3 out and then turn around and swim back. You're like, man, if you just kept going, you could have rested. If you just kept going, there's some people you're like,
5 more meters, bro.
Yeah. Until they turn around.
But they don't know, right? So the panic sets in. Yeah,
absolutely. So I mean, and it wasn't like an extreme rescue. Like I think it was a mom and her daughter. Like daughter swam off the sandbar, started swimming. Mom went out, turned to a double clutch, is what we call it, when like both of them are ladder affecting each other. Obviously, the mom's being more effective than the daughter. They called. How we do it there is like a simple radio call. We have a pretty strict radio protocol, and all you hear is they just like one of these guys. They just grab the radio, they're just like go, drop the radio, jump out of the tower. I'm like, oh shit, jump, run, grab your can. Like I just followed them in, ended up being able to grab one of the patients and pull him out with them. And it was just like the most life-changing things. It's not like you pull them out and you get this huge applause or anything like that. Or like, frankly, sometimes people get even pissed at you because like they feel embarrassed and that. Like it's not like necessarily like a big thing, but like after like you get back from here, just like, holy shit. Yeah. Like that person was gonna die if you didn't do anything, right? And then all of a sudden it was just this big like, I gotta work here, man. Like I gotta get down, and this is before I ever even understood like the LGC life. Like we did post up there and park there and do a little bit of stuff inside the cottage, but like you didn't understand because you didn't see it.
The LGC is the lifeguard
my
cottage.
Parents at the time, the lifeguard.
It's a
cottage.
legendary place in Grand Bend.
And my parents at the time, like. God bless my dad, my mom. Like my dad was pretty encouraging for me to stay over there during the course, but my mom was just not having it. She knew, man. She was stupid.
She didn't want her innocent boy tainted.
Oh, totally. Which is exactly what happened in one way, shape, or form, but for the better, as we're addressing, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, so I came back from that. Adam and I worked on the Goddard Beach, and I remember us like trying to like implement, because it was just, what? I'm not going to offend anybody, whatever. It was just ran like shit. Like no one knew what the hell they were doing, or like how to communicate, or how to like rotate properly to keep people like watch on beach. So like Adam and I are like, we learned so much in Grand Bend, and then like start like trying to do this. So like it was really cool because like
that's sweet.
And then we were just like, well, why don't we just try and like we got to try and work there.
We're just going to Grand Bend.
Yeah. So we started applying there, and it was like halfway through the summer of working in Goddard. And I remember at the time the manager like kind of offered Adam and I this like leader position down there. Like it really wasn't anything substantial, but both of us like after through summer started getting invited up, and you got to go do shadow shifts. Like you don't just get invited up and get hired, right? So like you're taking shifts off in Goddard to go up there to commit your time because you got to show what you're worth. Like you got to get in, and like some days there's no rescue, so like got to come back another day, got to get in on a rescue, got to show them that I can run with them, even if you don't get in the water. Like I just got to keep up.
Participate. You got to be part of the team.
It's not like getting a job at any other beach, right? No. This is like
like that's the interviews. Like you get up there and
it's a tough beach to get into.
Yeah, they sit there, you watch them you watch shadows, how they scan, like are they paying attention, are they getting distracted by all the nice bikinis and things like that, because like of course there's beautiful things there all over the place, like hey, and I mean, like, love you, Mal, like you're beautiful in bikini too, but like there's of course there's a lot of distractions. Shout out to my beautiful girlfriend Mal.
That would have to be my biggest growing aspect, would be trying to control the LGC beach life and work. Because I don't know how you guys do it, man. It's
and there were some people that couldn't too, like in the past, but like that's nature of the beast too, right? In any workplace, sometimes things will if you can't discern between the two separate things.
Yeah, but no workplace has that kind of what do you say? Babes crawling at the door, like want to hang out with the lifeguards every night.
That's true. Although I think like in any sort of like paramedic type or nurses and doctors, that kind of stuff, like I think in those high stress situations, there's a certain type of person that goes to that field, and you have to be able to discern work from home, because you just fucking can't, right? Like the shit that I don't see it, but like the shit that you are going to experience in your lifetime working as a paramedic or in a hospital or whatever. Like you can't forget that shit.
Right.
But you also need to be able to sleep at night, or else you're gonna not be well. So like to somehow stay healthy in a work environment and offload that in your downtime, like that is absolutely a practice skill. Like you need to know where your break is, and like I can have 3 this or do this for 3 hours, or else tomorrow I can't perform, and that could save or cost lives. This is the difference of people, and like.
And if people were...
It's over, right?
Oh, yeah.
But, like, I'm sure, like, you obviously know, but that's, like, not everybody can do that, because it's hard, like, especially if you're like, I got 12 girls knocking on my door that want to come in right now, and I got to get up in 4 hours.
Yeah.
I'm saying yes to all 12 and staying up all night. But it's like, but that...
I'd still be able to sleep for 3.5 hours.
You know, Bing, bing. I was counting shower time. You know what I mean? Like, say, no, lights out, I'm out, and get up, bang, run the beach, do all your shit, like...
Takes a breed, a special breed.
And then to follow into paramedics, like it's the same thing.
And that's exactly what it taught me too. Is even the work hard, play hard, and like, you know, obviously that's changed. That is like that. Isn't necessarily like a sustainable lifestyle at that degree, but like it is important too, right?
But it's just I don't want to say balance, because I think balance is bullshit. You go too far one way and then you go the other way as much as possible.
It's a pendulum, if anything.
Right, a pendulum is a better exactly. But your pendulum, instead of maybe play now, is like, I have a dog and a house and a girlfriend and life is sick at home, right? Yeah. So the pendulum swings in a different direction, but it's still opposing. Right?
Yes. Yeah, and you gotta have gotta have that contrast.
Like I don't know if we caught it on our last recording there, but needing that physical outlet, because that's that side of the pendulum now, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Work hard. It's so funny, man. I gotta add this. You're such a friendly, easygoing guy. Like you're just like da da da, don't care, don't give a shit. He was supposed to be here in an hour. It takes 4 hours. Like that's. But this is Vozzy. I think Vozzy is like this because I've seen him at his work. He's hardcore as fuck. Yeah. Man, when I walked through the hospital with you one time, it was like I was with a different guy, man. Because I'm so used to seeing you just like. You don't care. You're chill, friendly. You're like, there's this crackhead that propped up, and you're like, listen, you gotta do this, blah, 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 blah. She's like, oh, okay. And then you're like, do this, do that. Walking through some people, and you're just like, you're walking with a different air than you're used to. You're usually just like, mixed with the vibe, be all peaceful and cool. There you're like, I'm fucking running this show. Look out.
It's a switch. It's a turn on.
Dude, it's crazy, man. But I think you're so much... like you are in life now, because you are getting worse, man. You're more like you are. Because the shit is obviously going to get thicker too, because you're dealing with more shit, more shit. So I think that's why you're so like love, peace, take my time.
I gotta
stress is at work, stress is at home now.
You gotta leave it. I mean, of course, there are other things that carry over, like
for sure.
If everyone has something that carries over from home to work sometimes, whether it be even the drive home and some jerk, you know, like sometimes things just set you off the wrong way. But yeah, like, and you know what, it's funny you mention that too, because even particularly as a captain, it's not that you have to put on a facade or anything, but like you do have to turn on this this personality.
You do.
know,
Oh, for
like,
sure.
Yeah, like
People,
you're
if
serious
you want to
mode.
lead anybody,
You know?
you need to be a fucking leader.
Yeah, you got to
can't
be a
just
leader.
be this pushover.
No.
Yeah, it's cool, man. Show up. It's like if you're not here at fucking 8 o'clock, you're fucking out. Like
Yeah, and
You're
I was,
coming.
and I was.
yeah,
I mean, there's obviously still parts of my laid backness in terms of how I would address people and communicate with people
Sure.
as a leader. But yeah, like there's just
Yeah.
it takes a certain, and I love leading. Leading's a really fucking cool thing, man.
Sure.
Like when you get to like the byproducts of what you lead as an example is really neat. It's really
Or
neat
the
to see.
decisions you make
yeah.
for good progress in something,
Totally.
or a good outcome. Right?
Yeah, and
that feels good when you make a decision, a clutch time decision, and the outcome ends up being good.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and that's tough. Like that's again one of the learned things from all the time the Beach Patrol was, and I forget who had mentioned it, and I wish I did, and I don't want to just throw out her name. So
Yeah.
someone had mentioned the idea. I think it was particularly when I was becoming the captain, because the whole becoming the captain was like a whole bizarre thing. Because normally it's like a very successive process in terms of how it gets handed
Right.
down and things, right? I was very lucky to have gotten the blessing from some of like the older captains and that, which was so cool. Take it over. Shout out to JP White out in Revelstoke doing his thing right now. Really like
Yeah.
the boss. He was a captain of like I think 9 years or something. Just like the
OG.
like the OG, like the captain. And there's some really OG captains too.
Yeah.
But like obviously for me, that was who was captain
Yeah, that was
when
your
I did my
process.
Waterfront. And I mean, I was hired under a different captain, Prince. Shout out to Scott Morrison too, really good fellow. But yeah, like it's a neat thing. And I mean, so someone had mentioned this idea of it's called what they call this courage of decision, right? Like I mean, it's a tough thing because like, of course you try to weigh pro and cons as best as you can, or like most effective methods or whatever be it, most effective protocol and procedure. But at the end of the day, as much as you can sit there weighing, and not that like obviously taking slow deliberate time to make it the most correct decision, still just making that choice, the courage of making that choice and sticking with, okay, like this is what we're doing, and now this is the process that I'm going to go through, and you know what, if complications come, I guess we're going to have to address them as they come, right? Like that,
It's insane.
yeah, it's intense,
It's insane.
it's very nerve-wracking sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and I mean, again, like then it all becomes a very well-oiled machine when you do that too, though, right? And then the more consistency and that, and again, like I was always a huge believer of like lead by example, right? Like, like the leader's got to be the first one picking up the mop.
Dude,
like
it's crazy because you have to be fully accountable. Where you're throwing yourself out there to be fully accountable of what you just said.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It was a really cool thing.
Yeah.
And again, like a lot of my successors and all these guys that obviously have developed into all their own very unique, very like strong Beach Patrol contributions. It's so cool to see. But to kind of touch on that switch too, obviously all these cool things I learned from it, like the competence I used to it was a weird thing. I remember it being kind of a difficult thing for me. And again, it's kind of along the path of becoming a paramedic. So I got into Ottawa U. So this was after, I think I worked half a summer when I kind of got hired, almost like, it was like mid-August probably when I got hired after all the shadow shifts and that. And then started in full-time the next summer, which was essentially the summer before I went off to Ottawa U, which I was going for kinesiology, which I haven't touched on earlier in our last conversation, that exercise science course, right?
Yeah, I was all provoked by that.
Yeah,
That great science
really
course.
cool
Yeah.
exercise science course, and like there's something that's very practical and very empowering to have knowledge about the human body. Like,
Right.
of course, now I'm able to exhibit it in a giving manner in one way, shape, or form. But I think initially when I started learning about it, it was like, I want to know more about how I can work, right? And then it gets deeper, like that thing, like that idea flourishes and flourishes. Then it becomes deeper into like then you start using it to how to shape yourself to be a better person and that, like even aside from like how you move, but how you think and how you act and how you behave. That little seed of an idea of being conscious of yourself and learning about yourself and how you work is all very important, right?
You could tell you're going down the right path because once you started getting into paramedicine, you'd come visit me and you'd be so excited to explain to me on how one of the body parts work.
Yeah.
And
And
I'd listen.
goes
I'd
wrong,
follow you for about the first 30 seconds, and you'd go into the right into the details. You're like, "Isn't it crazy?" I'm like, "It is crazy."
Yeah,
man. It is crazy.
And
I knew you'd be successful because of the passion you had in it.
Yeah, and it was sweet. I mean, even blessed my girlfriend. She sits and listens to me on these rants. She makes fun of me sometimes, but yeah, like it is cool. And so I mean, so I'd gone off to Ottawa U. Great time, really, really awesome friends that I met, but frankly, I just did not have a scholastic or academic headset on me right now. Like, and of course, I guess most people do when they go off, and then you're 7 hours away from parents for the first time, and you're like, woohoo! Like, let's go buy a bong. Let's go buy. That's why I saw my student
for
credit.
10 hours.
Yeah.
Sweet.
So, which was great, and again, met some really awesome people. Learned a lot. Like, really enjoyed my courses about anatomy, physiology. That's when I started getting. I got to take some elective psychology courses, which is all like really, really cool. I started really enjoying a lot of science of the mind, and again, like for my own sake, like we can even touch on that later. Again, like I've had to learn to understand myself because I've had some different issues and different anger controlling issues and emotional reaction issues that I've had to figure out how to control, and a lot of that is through understanding myself and what I need to do to make sure that kind of stuff doesn't happen. Not that you're trying to repress it, but you're just exerting it in a safe place.
Right? How do we be and do better next time? Absolutely.
How do I not seem like a raging animal all of a sudden?
yeah. How do I breathe myself out of turning red?
Why did I rip the shirt off my back and punch myself 10 times in the head in the front lawn?
Yeah. Those kind of things need to be addressed. But totally, man. And like, a lot of people may laugh at this or may see that in themselves too. Everyone deals with anger issues, man. But like, and no, it's not fun to sit and try and address it. And yes, you're going to go through it a bunch of different times, right? But needless to say, when I went off to Ottawa, enjoyed a lot of that, but like also screwed off on a ton of classes that I did not enjoy. Right, that I just didn't find that scholastic. So that put me in different situations. I had a real like honesty, even like lifestyle learning style too. I remember, so I'd gone into academic probation in the second year. So again, I'd returned to the beach patrol, did my year, it was great. Went back to Ottawa U, and again, this is where things like get weird, particularly in the second year too, because when you go back to the summer and you're in that beach patrol mode and you have that confidence and you have all those people looking up at you and you do, like, obviously you feel attractive, whatever be it.
It's a dopamine.
Yeah, it's huge dopamine.
King of the beach, right?
Yeah, and then all of a sudden you go off to Ottawa U and you're like, you aren't. You're just you, right? Yeah. And that's really hard to make that connection to carry over like what you learn in that situations, because there are also some like, you got to ego check yourself a lot too, right? Like your ego's a really dangerous, funny guy, man. And like obviously that stuff, the beach patrol, like it can get to people quickly to those sorts of things, and you got to try and humble yourself. But obviously my humbling also made me realize when I was at Ottawa U and that I was like, I'm just a normal dude. Like, as much as I may tell someone about my lifeguarding, a lot of people will not understand. They're just like, you sit on the beach and look at people. Yeah. Probably they just look at asses all day. Like, that's literally that is primarily what people think. Yeah, for sure. Right?
Yeah. Well, some people just don't care, right? I don't have the time or the energy to appreciate whatever the fuck you're talking about, so I don't care.
Yeah. Right? It doesn't make you impressive, like whatever. So that was an interesting thing to go through and to try and learn how to adequately just carry what it was about the beach patrol that just made you like happy and made you like a good person too. And that was a huge learning. It took years to apply that properly, right? Yeah, for sure. It was a really weird thing. And so interestingly enough, like I say, so I kind of screwed off on schools on academic probation for a while, and I was lying to my parents. Right. They thought I was just like doing my thing, right?
Voskamp's killing it up at Ottawa U. Yep.
Doing all his courses, like, I got 5 courses this year. I'm on after probation doing 2 courses a semester, working at the pool. Yeah. And obviously I'll discuss this because past that, like just abusing the shit out of pot, like like up at the crackdown. Obviously not when I was working at the pool or anything like that, but like the days off. And I was only part time at the pool. There's only so many shifts because there's a lot of people. It's a big pool. A lot of people are working there, and just waking up, smoking a lot of pot, playing a lot of guitar. I got really fantastic guitar because I committed a lot of time to it. Not that I regret the time there, but like I definitely went through some like real deep like some real shit times, some
dark days.
Yeah, because like playing a lie is a weird thing. It fucking eats you, dude.
For
like,
sure.
It got
Especially
really
you,
weird.
right? That's not you.
No.
Your soul knows when you're doing something you're not supposed to be.
And I was
It tells
carrying
you
on.
all the time.
Yeah, dude.
All the time.
And it'll get you down. It's just
100%.
it's like you got to make a change. You got to do something.
Yeah,
Right?
we're gonna put you in the hospital.
Yeah, dude.
Absolutely.
So I mean, it came a point where, and I mean, it's not like this is what motivated me to do it, but it was definitely a fire under my ass. I remember when my father had gotten sick for the first time with cancer, and my mom and dad had called me there, and like here I am 7 hours away at Ottawa U, like just fucking off, doing nothing, and like not even doing my school properly, like working a little bit and just and again, and I'm like, no, like I gotta go home and just tell them. So I remember coming home, telling them, and again, like all of this was like a very interesting. You know, I had these conversations through the summer with a lot of the guys at the Beach Patrol and that, again, a lot of the older fellows. And I was like, and you just had to be. I remember having to sit down conversation. Frankly, man, my parents like love them. They kick ass. Like I probably scared the shit out of them, man.
Sure.
Like even though, like, of course, like I lended my hand as much as I could there, and I think I did. I think I did do a good bit of help and such. But like, here's Aaron, because I was playing in the band at the time too, from Men and Oranges there. I don't know, you were doing a lot of shows. So, I mean, that was probably just keeping me from, like you say, like probably going to the hospital, right? And that. Obviously I was working out a lot too, but like it was rice and tuna, pot, guitar, and working out. Yeah. And like, which is
it's funny though, that, like, to me almost too, I'm like, fuck, that sounds alright. You know what I mean? Like,
but it was such.
But you weren't in the right mindset.
No.
You weren't in the right.
Like this
that's the big thing about all of it. You weren't throughout this whole time.
Like I wasn't going out. I wasn't going with my friends. Played a butt ton of video games, which probably is what kept me. Even this sounds silly, but probably is what kept me cerebrally stimulated in one way, shape, or form. Amongst my guitar too. Yeah. And but came home. And so, like, here are my parents, like, oh, Aaron dropped out of school, and they, like, told us that he hasn't been doing well in school, and he's playing in a band, and so, now he's just dropped out of school and he's playing in a band. Like, what the fuck? Like,
the fuck?
What is he doing?
No, were you still on the lifeguard? Okay, so this is like, okay. Yeah.
So I remember, I think I kind of come home, like, it was right before the summer, and I did a summer on the patrol, and then I think I ended up talking with my buddy on the Beach Patrol, Josh Yates, Pooh Bear, Big Pooh. Fucking love that guy. He's great, fantastic. Who's also, shout out to him. He's a paramedic way up north right now, and so he had found out about this program up in Barrie at a little community, like a community college, like kind of like your like Westerville type thing called CTS. That offered a condensed paramedic program, which, quite frankly, is going to be obsolete soon because the paramedic program is going to 3 years. Right. So I was lucky enough to have that really fantastic foundation of all my anatomy, physiology for the courses and that, and then so I mean, like, to touch kind of back on the Beach Patrol to lend a little bit from the paramedic perspective is, I remember this was like, so one of like the first, of course we did a bunch of rescues and that, but like one of the first big ones was Canada Day 2012. And we'd had an unfortunate event and pulled someone out lifeless and worked them the best we could. And I like remember, so obviously that was like my first time doing CPR, my first time doing resuscitating attempts, and it was fucking insane, man. Because like on the beach you get a little bit in paramedicine depending on where you are, but like on the beach, there's again hundreds, thousands of people there. Like, which is tough, man. And when they see you pull out something and start working, it's just like this crowd effect. They just swarm in, like, oh man, that was the weirdest thing, having all those eyes on you as you're doing for the first time, right? Where you're doing resuscitative measures. So needless to say, I remember going home, like that was, or like going back to the cottage, and that was like the first time I'd ever done something like that. And I mean, again, we hopped back up within towers for the last hour and a half, and that was insane, man. I've never had that sort of feeling of like anxiety and like, it was a trip. It was a total trip, man. Like total drug-induced epinephrine high. It was insane. And then like eventually calms down. You get like a bunch of the old boys, and part of the beauty of, again, like the communism of Grand Band and like the the people that are there. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, sorry, don't mean that. The community. The community.
I don't know if that's what we're looking for here.
A little too early, Aaron.
Anyway.
So anyway, yeah, so a lot of the alumni guys all drove down, and like we all had this kind of debriefing in the cottage.
Yeah.
And even, I mean, obviously we all had our like own personal things. So I remember calling my parents, and like, you know, like it was all good. Like as I was calling, and then like my mom picked up, and it was just like, just tears just started rolling. I'm just like, Mom, someone died on the beach today.
Yeah.
And she's just like, oh.
Yeah, right.
It's crazy.
And of course, like,
right?
I mean, like, a lot of people would have those reactions, of course. I mean, I don't think negatively of it. Like, it was a process you got to go through. Like, in one way, shape, or form, I guess you could call it a grievance, but it was a trauma that you go through, right?
Yeah.
And so after that, I mean, obviously we kind of continued on, we debriefed well, and like that was like the first time of like understanding how to go through something like that too, right? And like having this entity, the cottage of brothers, like all these alumni guys that are there is so cool. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, well, like, I mean, if I can do this, and like, if I know that I have my mechanisms of like having to understand and communicate it in the right way, whether be it that it makes you upset or angry or however be it, then yeah, like, cool, that sounds really good. And so again, my buddy Josh suggested this school, this condensed program, went up there. One of the best like academic scholastic times I'd ever had. Like,
you were pumped, man.
And that. Yeah, I was
this
pumped.
Is what I was talking about. Sorry,
well.
I thought you were talking about that earlier, but you're still.
Yeah, I kind of I backed up a little bit.
Yeah, I was screwed up in your story.
Yeah, sorry,
this is when you'd come to visit, and you had a new light about you, right?
Yeah.
Because before you're kind of in like a depressed stage almost,
Totally.
I'd say, right?
Yeah, and I mean, again, like those months before I went to school,
relationship, few things, right?
Oh,
was that
yeah, there's a ton of things that have gone along those lines. And again, those were those months before I went to school when we were doing training twice a day, like just rocking it hard.
Yeah.
And again, that's just what kept me going. I was just like, yeah, this is what's going to keep my mind.
It was giving you good fuel. You're using a lot of that physically as an outlet, man.
And that was one of the first times of me figuring out, like, yeah, okay, I got to exert myself if I'm going to keep a peaceful state of mind.
One thing you said earlier, it's just stuck with me, I think just because it struck a chord, but you mentioned about how going from lifeguarding in the summertime, you get the sense of, like, how you're a good person, and, like, you really get that sense about, I guess it's almost a pride with your ego and this whole thing, but, like, you kind of find this path for yourself, like, this is where I think I should need to go. But then, how did you step away from that? Because you obviously aren't lifeguarding in the summertime right now, right?
Yeah.
So that's a big thing to lose. Like,
looking to research this summer, just as disclaimer.
But you know what I mean?
You might be, right? Yeah.
I might be doing some this summer,
Sure.
but I did step away for almost
like,
2 years.
First training wise, like for me, it's been like I associated being a good person for myself with anger and all this other stuff with training. It's like, great, I don't need to deal with it because I can train all the time, so training keeps it good.
Yeah.
And therefore I'm still good.
Yes, sir.
Take away the training, and I had this preconceived notion that like I'm just gonna be a shit person because everything's gonna like I'm gonna get mad and then I can't train and then somebody's fucked. I don't know, maybe me, whatever.
Yeah.
So
poorly
was
used
that similar
energy.
to you, right? It's like what do you do? So if you associate that for 7 years to lifeguarding, you think this is kind of my sense of being a good person.
Yeah.
How did you shift that away, or like what did you do? Was there any one thing that you were like, you know what, this is what I'm going to do now to try and replace it almost? Or like, where can I shift my energy, right?
And then that was part of it with going to the paramedicine. I mean, really frankly, it was a super tough thing to step away from.
Yeah.
Because, especially having been like the captain prior, it's always fun to give a succession to of your captain, right?
Sure.
But yeah, it is. But then all of a sudden being part time, just not having your hand in the pot, like not like you're trying to be controlling or anything, but you're just not as involved, not as present.
Right.
And that was a really tough thing. There's, I mean, in a really like basic way of putting
it.
Yeah.
Really though.
Yeah.
Right. If you're the captain, you're the most important person.
Yeah, and I mean, so I couldn't do that, so I had to step away and I had to back down from that. Which again, like, had some absolutely great captains after me. We'll say, without addressing that.
But it's neat to know, like, I guess, if you can, sometimes you're not ready to accept the fact that you're not going to be the guy anymore.
Yes.
Or the girl. And then it's like, but I've affected the people around me to the point where now I can achieve a sense of pride by watching them succeed. And like, you aren't the one in the spotlight per se, or the one that has all the control or the things everybody's watching me. I need to be bang on. This is responsibility.
Yeah.
It's like now I'm a member of the team, and I can be proud of the captain because they've trained maybe at least to some small degree around me, and I've helped influence and grow them to be what they're doing now. And look at them and do awesome, right?
And it was really cool to be, you know, like even when I was captain, you'd always approach the older captains and ask questions.
Sure,
right?
exactly.
And I mean, even, it was just, there was something that was quite sweet about just being a participant too, right? A little bit of a weight off your shoulders, but you also still had your tendencies regardless, right?
Sure. Oh yeah,
in terms of how you behave, like, and do your thing.
Yeah.
But it was all a very interesting transition, right? And it was admittedly quite tough because there's like the whole fear of missing out too.
Oh yeah.
Like as much as paramedicine is very exciting and very rewarding, it's not the same. It's not the same. Like, you're not jumping out of a tower and sprinting your ass off to go try and stop someone from getting into a situation. Yeah. Which we are just like, that being very first line. Right. Like, you are there to prevent the need for an ambulance to come.
Right.
With hundreds of babes around. I think that's a huge difference.
But so you've got the pressure on, your ego's on high, right?
Yeah.
You have potentially 5,000 to 10,000 people watching you do something that could save a person's life.
The highs are highs, or the lows are going to be fucking terrible.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
high stakes shit.
Yeah, dude.
You know, at the end of the day, it's the real deal.
Yeah.
So it's
And again, you do get that with a little bit like you get that in a certain degree of intensity with some paramedicine. It doesn't account for as much call volume, right? Yeah. But again, I consider myself fortunate to be able to have gone through those events because like that saturation doing all those rescues allowed me, and obviously I had to develop a lot of different character on the trucks as a paramedic, but like it allowed me to be more confident in terms of like how I could handle stressful situations, right? Because of course, like we always discuss how Mike Tyson's quote, like, you have a plan until you get punched in the face. It applies in so many different manners, man.
The punch in the face could be what you're walking into.
When your patient goes VSA in front of you for no apparent reason, you're like,
man.
Like, change a treatment plan.
Change a plan. At the highest degree. At the highest degree.
Well, when you saw my parents at the ICU there, whenever I'd say, or when I was in surgery or whatever, like, same thing. I left Wingham, all's good. Halfway to London, not good. Shit went real down, and it's like, didn't see that coming.
Nope.
You know, so the two guys and the nurse on there are like, fuck.
Yeah, and then you have to manage that.
Yeah, and they're like, you know.
Yeah, passion for different medication.
We're this far out. We don't have authority to do this shit. What's going on? Like, get back to me right ASAP, right? It's like,
it's a crazy thing doing that.
Yeah, it just participated in like the half hour or whatever section of listening to their conversations. It was like, it was intense, man. You know, like,
you got to make some.
You're talking about me, but I can hear you. So this is like, Jesus, that's gonna be stressful for you guys.
That's a super weird thing you have to address when you have like really sick patients on board, and like, I mean, that's why like even. Like, you don't generally hide what's wrong with a patient ever. Obviously, that isn't an ethically correct thing.
Right.
And so, because when you go to patch through the hospital and you're behind them 2 feet, and you're like, 6 or 7 feet, it's just having a big heart attack. Like, what? Like, you can't do that, right? So,
everybody's self-aware, like, his experience with, like, their having problems with their body as I am, but not to say I'm better or worse, but it's like, I know what's happening. This is bad.
Yeah.
So they're like, this is bad.
Yeah. He's saying it's bad. Yeah. And again,
he's right.
Yeah, that's a huge thing I respect about you, man. Is your consciousness of your conditions and how you feel. Because like you'd have to be so aware of what you were feeling when you're in your conditions, man.
It's a funny thing being fragile.
But you're strong in your own way because you have good mechanisms.
Yeah,
man.
It's just awareness because there's consequences of not having awareness.
Yeah, but humans don't get that. But like normal humans need to do that.
It sounds so simple.
I'm like, how do you just not do that? It doesn't make sense, right? But so in any case, for being on the truck, like again, I didn't say this already, but utmost respect for like just you're doing it.
Thanks, man.
It's crazy.
It's an everyday. Like I'm never just. I mean, I like to think that I do my job very well, but like there's always. You're never gonna not stop learning that job. There's never gonna be something that's gonna be a repeat from something you've already done. Like
So
maybe the condition.
What would be like one of the bigger lessons you've taken away, say, in the last year from your work that you've been able to apply to you? Because there's a couple of things I want to go down. You said you've touched a lot on your cognitive behavioral therapy or something like that, right? Different coping mechanisms. You've got your training. You've got this. I'm very curious how you distribute and like weigh which one is more important and kind of moderate that on the fly. Like, this was a shit day. What's your go-to? But like, what's the lesson you've been able to carry over to life? You know, like.
Yeah, I mean, and that's just it too, because it's an interesting thing. The things that are difficult on the road, of course, like the traumas, they're intense. Whether it be the gore and that's difficult to see when people are very, very injured.
Sure.
That's weird to see, right?
Yeah, right.
And yeah, like that can trouble you in different ways. But like a lot of it is like the human aspect, because, and not to take away from the hospital, because everything that people do in the hospital, and nurses and docs, is absolutely amazing. But it's different.
It's its own animal.
Yeah, it's its own animal. Like when you see daughter yelling at you to do something, and for mom to wake up, like that hits different. You know, like you're dissociated. Your switches on, and you're treating the patient.
Yeah.
Right, but like you still absorb all that stuff. It's just way after where you're like, oh, like that was heavy duty. Like I was in the middle of that, right? And like it's not like they're yelling at you, but like they're saying do something, whatever their plea is, right? Because they're just pleading.
It's emotional high, man.
Yeah,
like,
it's insane. Like those types of
desperate time, man.
Adrenaline, absolutely.
Like different, even mental health calls, because like it's interesting to see. You know, because I mean, again, all of us, I'm sure, in one regard or another, have struggled in one way, shape, or form, and have to figure things out. You know, like you see the patients that have mental health issues that you're like, shit. You know, like if I didn't make a couple wrong decisions on my behalf, I could have been in the same boat and just not coping, not dealing well. Like, because you just see these similarities and that, right? So it's those sorts of things that are all like, they just make you very reflective, right? And so you do have to spread it in its own way. Like obviously some things like dealing with like really high acuity, high intensity calls, like that feats well with exertion and working out and big work. That does well with that. Of course, a lot of the emotional things, sometimes that's why I attest to the big work being just so different from even lifting weights and that too. Because you can get an emotional aspect out of it.
Oh, yeah.
I don't drain emotion into a bag.
Oof, no problem. And it always beats you. You never win against a bag.
Still standing there.
Yeah, dude. Like and you can spew out your emotion into that. And it is like it's neat. I mean, like not, and I don't think, you know, some people may think like, oh, that encourages violence. You're using rates. Like, no, but like this is the appropriate use of my energy. This is how I need to, like, this is how I feel I need to use my energy about this. Yeah. So this is where it goes.
This is something, it's a little bit off topic, but like this is something that was completely, you know how in movies, like you see people like break down crying and like they don't even breathe, it looks like they're screaming but they're not, and all that kind of shit. I was like, yeah, whatever, I'm sure that happens, that's in movies and shit. But then this year, there was a 5-year anniversary of my accident. I had a miscarriage, and on that day, like, that happened. Like, I did it twice, man. But over the course of that, like, it was a really neat experience in that I'm like, first of all, I can do this. Like, I can't breathe, and I'm not actually making any noise, but it feels like I'm fucking screaming, right?
Yeah.
That's a real thing.
Totally.
But then also, I was at the same time, I'm like, I felt things in my body. I'm like, okay, I feel my chest feels really tight, my throat feels small, and then it shifted. It's like now it's in my stomach, and like it's this whole process of like. It was very interesting physiologically to assess this whole like
this manifestation,
super intense like crying sort of self therapy session. I was just talking myself through in my bathroom. I was like, fuck, this is just happening right now. Yeah. But then also my mind like dealing with all this stuff, and I'm like, fuck, like my body is changing as this all progresses.
Yeah, man. Right? It's a whole physical manifestation.
I've never had that strong of reaction to something, and then all of a sudden I'm like, fuck, like if you feel things in your chest, it means this or whatever. It's your throat or your head. I'm like, whatever.
Chakras and stuff.
Don't know because it's never happened. I can't relate.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I'm like, oh shit, here it is. It is in my chest. This is a thing.
Yeah.
Did it build up or was it pretty sudden?
No, it was crazy. Like,
so was it like a train, like slowly get to the bathroom, like
not really. I just went to the bathroom, but I was in the middle. Like I was just talking to myself through like basically the course of events over like a 24-hour period.
Yeah.
And then I just got to a certain point in like my self story out loud, and I was like, holy fuck, and I just like
broke down.
Yeah, I just hit.
Yeah.
And then it was like my body's doing stuff right now.
Yeah, you
like,
don't have a choice.
Yeah.
You try to tough it out, but
yeah, and then I'm like, right. So
the demon's coming out.
So I'm like, all right, do I just stop the story?
You're grabbing, like, mirror facing, like,
right.
yeah.
Or do I carry on? I'm like, well, there's no sense stopping.
You gotta go.
So I took a piss, and then I just kept talking, and I was like, wow, like, this is crazy.
Insane.
So I guess my question for you then after that is like, do you ever find yourself like walking through, like, have you found your body like do similar things after some certain calls? Like, if the boxing, totally relate. You punch the bag, for some reason you start crying.
Oh.
What the fuck?
Yeah, dude.
I just started punching shit. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, and
But,
I again, to touch on the music too, the bag's
Yes.
bag's a big part that gets that out. But it's funny, like I go through the same things. I'm sure all of us have gone through the same thing. Like whether it be it like songs always hit me. Like songs are always a mood hitter,
Big
right?
time.
For some bizarre reason, it resonates with a memory or resonates with something.
I can see you getting emotional with your guitar, man.
Oh yeah, dude. I've had some pretty cool.
You go like
I think
you're
it
in it,
resonates.
right?
I think it's
Sometimes.
frequencies and the
Vibrations
the body somehow. I don't know.
Yeah, something about emotions and vibrations. There's a beautiful synergistic effect in one way, shape, or form. But yeah, I mean, like there's a lot of different times. I mean, and I've been even particularly with my home life. I mean, it unfortunately I lost my dad last year, actually coming up on the anniversary, which is all very tough.
Yeah, absolutely.
In its own ways. I mean, I get a lot of those like the big like swells, man.
Yeah,
oh,
man.
and it's so funny because like you talk yourself through it, and sometimes you think you're like some sort of insano because you like just broke down crying. But like no, man. Like again, people got to realize like it's totally normal. You got to deal with that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's important to do it. Like okay, you're doing it. All right, let's like then we're doing it.
Well,
Like-
and at least for my situation at that time, I thought I'm not in a counseling or therapy session right now, but if I was, what could I potentially imagine them asking me to talk about?
Mm-hmm.
So then I'm like, all right, just explain what's on your mind. So I was like, I explained what's on my mind. It just ended up down this rabbit hole, and it was almost like a narrator almost. So just intermittently like stop and be like, oh, this, and this, and then I'd be like, oh fuck, I didn't think of that, and then I go down another rabbit hole, and it's just like, but then afterwards, like,
Oh yeah,
I felt so late. I'm like, fuck, I've been carrying this around for 5 years,
yeah.
and now I finally feel fine. Or not fine, but I feel it's gone. You know, it's
I've,
like, all right,
I've
I
accepted
feel
it in
healthy
one way,
now
shape, or
about
form.
that, right?
Yeah, and I mean,
So-
because you accept a thing initially doesn't mean that it's not going to resurface again. But like, yeah, you got to go
Right.
through the different acceptance processes of
Sure.
what. And no, acceptance isn't the only thing, but that's got to try and be your end game.
Can't change it.
Yeah, got to try and be your end game.
Yeah.
Acceptance.
Yeah.
Is the end.
Yeah. What else
You
you
might,
gonna do?
you can be angry, you can be upset, and think you might be able to change something. Like the end
Yeah.
game is like you're gonna have to accept it. Like it's.
I think that's all things in life. Like if people fight things so much for so long, and you use so much energy, and it's like, look, if the thing already happened, you're not doing preventative maintenance now. You're fucking scratching to go backwards in time.
Yeah.
You can't. You know, I'm sure whatever the anniversary is for you, it's going to be a tough day. But,
Totally.
But it's also
Absolutely.
a healthy day because it's a new opportunity to, I think, assess this whole physiological thing. I was like, fuck.
Yeah, and
People experience this, but they probably don't even think about it. Like,
no, or they repress the shit out of it
exactly.
too, and like
right.
a lot of self-medication and that. I mean, like
Sure.
everyone has different crutches and things to that extent.
Yeah.
But like,
And not excluding myself, I'm sure.
no, I mean, I know
at
I've
the same
abused
time,
things,
yeah.
self-medicating, thinking it'll improve things in one way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Sometimes it does allow you some breakthrough sort of
For
thoughts
sure.
and such in one way, shape. But again, obviously, moderation is always key to many things. But yeah, man, like it's crazy to feel the manifestation of your emotions and then to go through that process,
Yeah.
like the heaving process of bringing it out. It's
Literally,
fucking intense.
absolutely, yeah.
It's a grown process, man.
Oof.
You don't do that when you're 13 years old. I don't think,
No.
right? It's a little different.
Totally.
And if you do, I don't think most people are self-aware or like even aware of like a reason or why you would think about, well, I feel this in my chest, or I feel this, or whatever. It's like, this is just fucking insane. It's happening. I don't know why. I don't know what to do about it. Versus being there and being like, okay, we're sitting in this. This is happening. And it's actually a conversation I find I have a lot recently is, like, if you have, let's say, like 100 spaces in your mind for thoughts, and we just purposely occupy as many as possible with bullshit, until the point of, like, we're not self-assessing or, like, being reflective of what's going on behind it. Because I don't want to think about what's back there. But, like, that 70% capacity that's just being filled with bad weather and politics and bullshit, not that it's not important, but, like, you're also not helping yourself be a better person by thinking about and complaining about fucking shit going on around you.
That's just like turning it into drinking or doing drugs.
And that's just it.
Right?
Well, I'll drink and smoke a joint every day, and then I don't have to think about this thing, and it's all good.
Half of them don't work anymore, so I don't have to fill them.
Right. But then, you know what I mean? And so I find just in general, people...
So collapses like a star.
Instead of where, for you, like, as you mentioned, you started looking into things. Like, how can I cope with this shit? Because it's going to keep coming.
And not that I'm some sort of, like, say, cognitive behaviorist, like psychoanalysis.
Analyzer?
Yeah, psychoanalyst to myself, but I try to be as analytical as possible myself. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
for sure. Yeah.
That was late. That's a sleepy mind there, man.
I mean,
fuck. Oh yeah, that was a good one. Pig. But fuck. Yeah, Joel's like, it's like taste that.
I know it's I don't want to be sick. Fuck. Don't blame your problems on me.
Sorry, man. You down here. Yeah, complexes.
Yeah, like Joel there.
Oh, subconscious slipping. Right?
Anyway,
I'm chill, bro.
But yeah, you gotta sit back and analyze yourself sometimes, man. You gotta be. Not that you got to be your own worst critic, as much as most people are their own worst critic, and
it's a reoccurring theme on our podcast. Is you have to be aware of what's going on with yourself
all the time.
Yeah, and it's
everyone
all in
we've had this
manners,
that's progressing in the right way.
Yep.
Like, that's what's up.
Yeah, and again, like especially along the sides of like traumatizing things you got to deal with, man. Like it's a weird thing, dude. Trauma's like. And again, like, it's even interesting because I have personal life traumas, of course, as any human does.
Yes.
But then I get to statistically expose myself to, like, a substantial amount of ridiculous, like, traumatizing incidents, right? And it's just an interesting thing. I mean, like, there's been some calls, whether it be I've had some, like, I remember one in particular that kind of I had to work through for a while. Was a young overdose, like quite young overdose, in like a really weird storage unit. It was just all like a bizarre, super bizarre thing.
It's hard to process.
Yeah, and then, you got to go through the process of that. Like again, it's the human aspect that you reflect on, right? And just makes it sometimes makes it hard to be like, what the hell? I mean, and of course you're not blaming this individual, but like you gotta think about it. Like, and I think it's important to, not that you're bringing work home with you, but again, it's like. It's helping expand your mind to understand humans and the different paths they have. Like, I think it's ignorant of you not to reflect on the things and think of how someone ended up there, because there's a lot of people, particularly even in my industry, that are just burnt out and choose not to do that.
Sure.
And they become like very impersonal people, right? And of course, it can get tiring dealing with the same sort of issues, but like, it's just, like, it's important to reflect, like, how did this young, like, 18-year-old girl get in this position? Yeah. That like I'm hauling this girl out of a storage unit, like, on the 3rd floor.
Yeah,
like,
what the fuck, right?
Like, what?
Now, where my mind goes with that right away is, do you feel like that's harder to process, potentially because it's not something that's as closely related to something that you've experienced in your past? Mm-hmm. Like, I have a lot of people, again, just my speaking of shit, but like, talk to me a little bit about their personal traumas, and I feel like it's probably because they feel like I can relate on some level, even though it's completely different. But a trauma is something you can relate with a lot of people about. And so on your level, you see it all day, every day. Yeah. Do you find that, or do you think that you can process it slightly easier, partially because you have some of your own, but then also because you keep accumulating more exposure to other people's, and it's like, now I understand that this is a thing. I've processed it to a point where I kind of think I know how they may have got there. Yeah. And then you see it again, you're like, oh, I think that person maybe got there similarly. Here's go fish. I got my card, and now I can set it aside. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And now it starts to make sense.
So you get desensitized. So I kind of
but it's exposure for sure.
There is definitely a certain desensitization because you end up having to, like, as I said, kind of compartmentalize all these things, all these learnings, right? Because, and of course, a lot of them are sad and shit, and you do. It's not that you desensitize yourself because you always have to be human, and like no one's just not human, man. Like, it's funny, I've had these different conversations with people, like different struggling times of the career, even with my girlfriend, who's always been a very supportive, encouraging person. But like, you know, some people have had that, like, is this the right career for you? Like, because at one point someone probably has to, like, someone reflects on that because it's like, what? Yeah. Like, Jesus, why am I putting myself through all of this?
Yeah,
like,
it's exposure to trauma all the time.
Yeah, and I mean, initially you do have to sort your jazz out, but you just. You have to take those things and you have to be able to relate it to the job so that you can better be a human to those people. Just because you understand it. Like, a big word that's always dropped is empathy, and like the big thing is like empathy exhaustion in the career, right?
Yeah,
Like, huge,
so much of that, right?
Yeah, like, it's just, you got to really try and hold on to that as a value, because if you lose that, like, you're going to start treating people poorly, and frankly, that's going to take away from, like, your reward factor.
You don't get the dopamine so much. You don't care.
And not that that's, of course, in one regard or another, that you do seek that, right? But, like, I think, I'm trying to remember who exactly said it. It was a celebrity of sorts, comedian. But, like, you're, like, one of the most valuable currencies is your effects on others, man. And that is just, it's totally true. Like, and if you make an effort to try and always have a good effect, like, you will be rich in one way, shape, or form in what you feel, right? And so, I have to take those different experiences to be able to be better, to treat people, and even better de-escalate things, better be able to connect with people, to help actually, like, get them to want to seek help, whether it be like mental health issues and that. Because, like, man, like, a big part of it is like just being able to socialize and be able to listen, man. Like, things like, it's just in all these different things that you figure out. Like,
having people feel like you care is something that people seek. Like, especially now, like, it's hard to find someone, if you're talking to them, to get a sense back that this person actually cares about not only what I'm saying, but also about me and my well-being. Yeah. So to be able to walk into someone's home and give that to them and be like, I'm here to help, blah, 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 in your whatever kind of 10 seconds you have to talk, but to communicate that I'm here, I care about you and what's happening. Yeah. And then the feeling that they get back to you, then it's like, I haven't had that in 20 years. Like, some people, like, I haven't felt like somebody cared about me my whole life.
Even some really sad, like, elderly.
Exactly.
Like, been alone, like, they don't have family around, or family doesn't visit, and like,
so to be able to provide that feeling, like,
totally, and like, it's something you got to value. I mean, maybe it is a really, like, kind of convalescent call, and you're not having to do much. You're monitoring the patient, but like,
remember we were out the one day and you got a beer sent to you? Yeah, and it was a guy from McCall, but you didn't think you like. It probably wasn't weighed on you as much, but him, it was like, boom, this is that guy.
That dude helped me, yeah. And again, like, it's...
That was sweet, man. That was cool to see.
That was a really neat moment for me, too.
Like, probably saved your life. Thanks, bud.
Sweet.
Yeah. And people's definition of an emergency is all very individualistic, too, right? Yeah. Obviously, someone, and all of us who've been through a lot of different things or worked different emergency and rescue services, and is aware about their body as they are. Yeah. You know, you understand when the necessity is for the real emergency help,
when
right?
It's time.
Yeah, but a lot of people live their life like so, like, in this state that, like, it is sometimes incomprehensible, and this is even a difficult thing because obviously, like, a lot of our call volume is some calls that, frankly, we aren't necessarily doing any of our emergency medicine. We're just transporting someone to the hospital.
Sure, right.
But it's an emergency for this person, and like, as much as sometimes we're like sigh and, you know, like, oh, like,
you're actually fine.
Yeah, like, but this person called 911. Like, when we think about what we have to feel to call 911, that person felt, even though we wouldn't consider that we'd get that feeling, but like, that's pretty intense. That's an intense feeling for people, right?
Are you okay? Right.
That example is prime example of your growth, though, as a person, especially being a paramedic, right? Yeah. You're seeing, you're connecting with their feeling, with how you'd feel, seeing the difference, knowing the difference, and treating with care as needed, right? Rather than what you think is needed.
Yeah.
Because in reality, that was a trauma for them. To actually dial 911 in a perceived state of emergency, that is traumatizing.
Totally.
Guaranteed.
100%.
So it's like,
regardless,
even if they stubbed their toe or broken on the door or something, and you show up, their reactions have already happened.
Yeah, they're finally
yeah.
Yeah. And again, I think even
crazy.
to comment on how, again, that carries over to life, like, I know this sounds like a lot of these kind of mantras that you hear about life, but, like, man, you can't take life so serious. Like, and not to say that to the people, I mean, who are calling on, I'm not addressing that, but, like, it's a neat thing. Like, why people get upset when they're rendering care to people is like, what? Like, why? Like, what do you care, man? Like, you're getting paid to be here for 12 hours
job,
and just
man.
do this. Like, what are you so sad about? Like, it's kind of pretty cool. Like, and then, again, like, all of the real serious stuff, like, man, life, like, in an instant, like, there's even, obviously, this story is out right now. Again, this is I'm excited I even kind of thought about this. I shouldn't say excited because it is a very sad story, but also a very harrowing, very uplifting story in one way, shape, or form, because, like, you have no idea, man, like, what the universe has set out for you, whatever higher power you believe in or whatever sort of fate you believe in. Like, that normal walk that you've done for 25 years, one day might be a car that hits you. And like, you had no fucking idea that your life, now you're quadriplegic or something. Like, life just
shit changes like that, man. Absolutely.
So, and I mean, again, like, I mean, I've again had different struggles with holding on to the past and different things like that, and like to work those things out is a really insane thing. And I mean, so, like, for example, this, again, a reminder, very intense, sad story. I don't know whether you guys had read in the news, but one of my colleagues in London, actually, like, this young, healthy lady whose husband is a paramedic as well. You know, big shout out to Sam and Phil Quinlan, and bless him. I hope Sam's doing really, really well. She went VSA on night shift, like 4:30 in the morning.
Wow,
man! Like, with just her and her partner at a base.
So VSA for everyone.
For people who don't know, sorry, and again, I always drop this. I mean, even with Joel. So VSA means vital signs absence. Essentially, you're dead. You're cardiac arrest. Yeah. Like, and I mean, and again, people don't get this necessarily because you know, like, cardiac arrest. Like, when you see it in the movies, like, you always see the flat line and the shock. And that isn't the case. Like, it's that your heart has essentially gone into an arrhythmia that doesn't effectively pump blood. So now you've gone unconscious. Eventually, that lack of oxygen and blood to your brain, you're going to go brain dead, systemic, as well as your heart will just eventually stop pumping, obviously fibrillating, causing systemic organ death, right? So this poor lady, the anecdote goes, the story, is that the tones went off the base. It was like 4 a.m. Tones went off the base, and for anyone who might be listening, one of my colleagues, I do apologize if I mess up any of the story. So tones went off the base. It was for a standby, so not like a super urgent call where you're, like, really decking out trying to make your shoot time for the call. And the partner, Cam Young, like, easily you can address as a hero. This fellow who did this, like, fantastic paramedic, absolutely great paramedic. And even at that, he started a GoFundMe page as well for them. Oh, wow. So obviously during this, so I mean, for anyone listening, there's a GoFundMe page for Sam and Phil Quinlan and their family, and to help them get through this tough time. She's still in hospital. Things are looking good, but still in hospital nonetheless. Right. So tones went off for standby. Cam got up and went to the washroom. Came out and noticed that the recliner had sat up. Right. However, she was snoring, respirations, and what we call is like posturing. Kind of looks like seizing. It's like the contraction sees out. Yeah. So Cam had got her onto the floor to be able to assess her and better take a look. Ran out to the truck to grab our monitor, our defibrillator. Yeah. Unfortunately, because again in the heat of the moment, this is 4 a.m, and generally when tones go off at 4 a.m, it's all a very tough situation, getting your bearings and everything. Yeah. Accidentally locks himself out of the crew room. Oh shit. Has to go out like probably less than 30. Goes out, smashes the window, gets back in. Like fuck yeah. Right away. Yeah. Like he just knew what he was doing, and got in there, found her to be VSA. Yeah. Just so happened that this particular base in Dorchester, we have what's called a Lucas, on the truck, and it's like an automatic compression machine for CPR that you can attach. It's like a piston.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's really neat. So he, again, in his senses, I think he'd started to run his cardiac arrest procedure, like started his compressions, gave a shock, so she was in a shockable rhythm, which is really cool.
Good. Yep.
Got out, got that Lucas machine, and like ran the arrest by himself, put the compressions on, ran the monitor. I don't know if I can't comment. I don't know what he did airway wise and whatever not. I'm sure he did manage something along those lines too, to be able to probably ventilate while he's running the, like,
you can speculate some things, but either way,
like did a fucking kick-ass job, and then got what we call a ROSC, which is a return of spontaneous circulation.
Yep.
And he had other paramedic at one point when he got out to get the defibrillator. I think he hopped on the radio and
called for help.
Yeah, called for help. Like, and again, probably very collectively and articulately to that extent. And
as you do,
yeah. And again, like when we talk about this switch, dude, like, and it was heavy listening to this goddamn story, man, because all of us medics have run a VSA, a cardiac arrest, and it is like, not to, and again, yes, we do kind of desensitize and not to take away from it, but it just becomes an algorithm. Like, you just,
you know,
you
what
go
to
into
do.
this mode and you know what you're doing, right? Of course, there's already, there's things that change environmentally and what happens with the patient, how they got there, yada, yada.
Yeah.
But,
well, you know, you have a job to do right away. Every second counts, right?
Yeah, so he turned on, he ran an arrest, he got a return, and like,
that's insane to do, man, by yourself.
By himself.
That's a lot
it's
of shit,
fucking
man.
insane, man. It's so, and then crew showed up. She already had her return of circulation. They transported her, and now like again, things are looking good so far, right? But
good for him.
You know, it's intense because like again, it's that human aspect, right? Like, you never think it's going to happen to the partner that's sitting next to you on your standard issue night shift that you work with day in, day out. This young lady who's healthy and like, I mean, again, you can't speculate personal health and whatnot, but like, as far as you know, it's like
exactly.
patient.
Like,
seems like a healthy young world.
She's healthy enough to be in a truck to save other people.
Yeah, who knows? And I'm not speculating to what necessarily happened, but who knows what night shift that tone is going to send me into fibrillation because I get stunned so hard, right? I'm not saying that's necessarily happened, but like, you don't know.
No, you know
right?
nothing.
Yeah.
And then even to that effect, like thinking again of having to ever work a friend or a colleague, and which is ultimately a friend when you're a partner, you know, like you do develop a certain.
As a brother, it's very similar to the Grand Bend. I'm sure
totally,
you're in
you have to have a camaraderie.
Absolutely,
right? You have to work fluidly in chemistry.
You need to be able to count on the people around you on
much
life and death. Absolutely.
Much like she could on Cam. I mean, of course, all of us have had fantastic training, and I commend Middlesex London for all the training that they do and how they keep us a very progressive service. You know, but you always say to yourself, not that I'm doubting my abilities, but you always say to yourself, like, you know, I fucking hope I'd be able to react like that if I ever had that situation, right? Yeah. And that's a reflective process.
Absolutely, but then you could even analyze, is there an area that I feel insufficient in that I could potentially get better at and improve on right now?
Yeah, so I'm
if that happened today, what would be my downfall? How do I improve? And like, I think that mindset in general, as you mentioned earlier, like, the people who are doing the shit that they're really fucking succeeding at have that ability to be like 3 steps ahead, or even 1 step ahead is more than most people. Be like, what is gonna be my shortcoming when something bad happens, or when it counts, whatever it is, good or bad? What can I improve on? Like, no different than lifting. What are my weak points in my squat? What are my weak parts in my fucking whatever?
Yeah.
What can I work on today to improve myself down the line?
Yeah.
Whether it's for myself or for others, and in your case, you know, it's both, right? But it's awesome. Yeah,
it's a wild trip, man.
Dude, it's crazy, and like you said, you never know when it's gonna be. We just had
exactly.
For Mine Rescue, we had 30-some-year-old young iron worker. He just went. He died underground.
Yeah.
Just propped up some kind of issue. I don't want to get into the details. Anyways, long story short, iron workers strong. All these guys, everyone underground. We're working. We're strong. We're healthy. This guy's ending shift, going to work, dead. Okay, so young guy. Yesterday with the fire department call, and this is when I give you guys so much respect, man. As soon as I'm driving to this call, and as soon as I see because now we have a page that tells us the call as well. It was a pedestrian struck by semi. So right away my heart sank, and I'm like,
fuck.
I'm going to this. I don't want to see this. I hope to fucking God the paramedics are there already dealing with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy when, like, you sign up for that, man.
Yeah.
Like, I sign up for it too, but not at the rate, volume, full time that you do, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not going to be the paramedic on the scene. I'll assist them, but in the end, they have to deal with the person, right?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
transport them. And I mean, again, but like all puzzle pieces, have they not been in place, it all makes for like a success, however you want
They
to
do.
look at
I
it.
just, like, I
But
really feel
totally.
for your job, man.
Oh,
So
I appreciate
actually,
that.
interesting question then for you in this instance. Like, I would think from an outside perspective, because I have no experience in this, you would have a much higher efficiency at processing that based off of the regularity that you see it. Whereas if you say you've seen 20 of these similar cases on your pager or whatever, and Joel sees one, you've already got the process. Be like, I've been to a scene like this. I've seen some fucking crazy stuff, whatever, and you have this program in your mind when you get there. These are the things I'm going to check. This is where I'm going to go. This is this and this and this. Where Joel's like, fuck.
This
You know,
is why I
this is
hope the
brand new.
paramedics there,
Right.
Because
There's
I know
different
it, right?
minds too. Like
For sure.
I'm sure for him, he's thinking like, shit. Are we gonna be freaking are we gonna be propping this truck off of someone? Are
Yeah,
we gonna
right.
be-
Exactly.
Like
So-
so, just different.
But if you were to expose
preparations.
that once, then maybe twice and 3 times you get more comfortable, more confident,
sure,
more
for sure.
confident, right? But then also, like, afterwards, you can process through faster. Do you think that would be applicable?
1,000%. You're
Yeah.
100% correct.
Yeah.
I mean, like, and again, like much I had mentioned at the beginning, the beauty of the job is like, as much as you see something over and over again, it's never going to be the same.
No.
But
right,
like you do,
right.
of course, like you always have to resort back to your training, and like there's algorithms to what you follow to make the most efficient treatment, right? And so yeah, you remind yourself, you go through that, and you're like, so you go through the what ifs, like. I mean, obviously, in a situation like a big trauma like that, you're thinking about what you need to stabilize. The big thing is time, speed.
Yeah.
There's
What's left?
there's time standards that just have statistically improved trauma patients that you just try to adhere to, right? Like,
Yeah.
not that you just scoop and go, but you scoop and you do like a lot
Load
of
and
stuff
go
on
is
route.
fast, man.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff on route and like stabilizing and trying to prevent as much blood loss, however be it, whether that be like reducing, like sometimes like even instances, it's devastatingly sad as that instance is, but like a lot of bad traumas like that, sometimes like even pedestrian struck, sometimes there isn't a lot of external bleeding, but
Yeah.
we have such great anatomical dead space
Yeah.
that we can
Fills for it.
easily
Absolutely.
fill ourselves up with everything that we flow around, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different methods that you think of. And again, hey, you go through like all the big serious ones of like, hey, what are some of the, like obviously like pelvis is a big thing. Of course, like all the chest with it, there's not really all that much you can do stabilizing chest walls unless there's any like puncture injuries and such. But like
They need a
big-
surgery room if it's serious, right?
Yeah, trauma is a surgical disease, is what we call it.
There you
Yeah.
go. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And time. So I mean, time
Yeah.
to the table is what we got to get, right? So yeah, it is. It's all, and of course, like yeah, you do prepare yourself in every way, but that's that switch too,
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
right?
Yeah,
As you're
you are.
preparing your
As we mentioned earlier in the day, you get to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I like to fuck around big time. You guys both know that. But
Yeah.
I strap on the BG, mine rescue, the bunker gear, the fire department. It's like,
yeah.
I just
That-
kind of shift this back because I think we missed this on the last conversation because it didn't record. But to transfer out of this, the craziness, we talked about physical exertion a bit and how you've been training the last little bit and kind of how we're training. I just kind of want to bring this back home.
Yeah,
a
yeah,
little bit
back
lighter.
to the
You know,
back to the
yeah, a little bit
meathead of
lighter,
it
maybe
all.
a little bit, just
Yeah,
because,
totally.
you know, this is all great too, but
Yeah.
it's at the end of the day, we got to deal with it afterwards.
Yeah.
So what have you been doing? You know, you mentioned you built the heavy bag and stuff. But
Yeah, so I
that
mean,
again?
obviously throughout all this, it's really bizarre. The closing gyms suck. Like
Yeah.
it's tough, and you got to find your way. Much as we discussed being self-aware and everything, right? So yeah, my buddy Joel here, Jojo comes, drops off a big heavy bag. Like I think it was like, I don't know, it was dark out, 9:30, 10 at night. I'm in my boxers playing COD, and I hear a knock on the window with a big heavy bag. Jojo, I'm like, oh hey,
we couldn't even like touch hands, high five,
Yeah,
right?
Back
Like,
to the glass.
Yeah,
Like
he
in
just
prison,
leaves, leaves it on the front porch, waves again, and hauls off.
Yeah.
And so I built a little thing out back, and that's been my major coping mechanism. And it's interesting because, I mean, I know we touched on how much Joel and I trained. We did a lot of weight training. I put on a lot of heavy weight. I mean, like, I had the opportunity to train like that and diet well and everything. It's interesting transitioning into with work and everything. That's just not, I just can't sustain that. I just don't have time to eat.
Yeah.
So, like, I've had to change my approach to physicality. I mean, I still love the weights. I still love doing all those things, but that's why I really enjoy boxing. I love that exertion. I love that cardio. And I just like movement. I like keeping my body movement healthy, because at the end of the day, like, I do spend a lot of time sitting in the truck, regardless of how much lifting you might do, and that, but like, still probably 75-80% of the time you're sitting in the back of the truck and you're rendering care from your knees or sitting. I'm too tall to stand in the back. So yeah, a lot, like, I mean, my close buddy, Noah Hellrig, shout out to him down in Australia. Can't come home right now, but doing his thing. He did a lot of yoga.
Right. Yep.
And he influenced me a lot about, like, the first 20 minutes, half hours of most of my workouts consist of a lot of yoga and body movement stuff just to get flowing, because I don't know, not that I'm that old, but like 28, I gotta make sure it's the foundation that builds you for what you do when you're older, right? And how your joints are going to be. So yeah, I've changed to a lot of kind of a more sustainable weight, more sustainable training style. Like, obviously doing a lot of the boxing, that kind of really switched into more of a cardio gear. Like, I didn't do as much weights and such, but again, that's why I've always loved the Beach Patrol. There's something important about having, not that you need to have a goal training, but like, it's just important to find what you find valuable to encourage you to train. Essentially, right?
There's got to be a meaning for it, right?
If you're gonna have your why to into the how.
Yeah, and I mean, like, the Beach Patrol influenced me a lot for that. Obviously, there is a certain degree of wanting to stay in shape and healthy for work. But yeah, there's a lot of like more so maintenance type of training. It's a lot of stretching, a lot of different body movement stuff. I mean, I still have a lot of influences from Ito. Good old Ito Portal. And
do you find that when we wrestled hard, it was kind of a glimpse into why we need to keep our body limber?
Yeah.
Because I don't find you never know soreness until you've wrestled another human body hard, and then you realize how much shit you lack, how much range of motion you lack, and like, you get twisted up, your legs over your head, and you're all fucked up because you got pretzeled.
Everything's pulled.
And then after, you're so sore and you can hardly move, hardly twist. You're like, I don't want to feel like this when I'm older. I gotta get my body in good shape, right? I found wrestling was like a big cue, and then you get injuries, and you realize how much injuries set you back. You're like, fuck, I can't have these. I gotta
strain your fingers and shit. Like,
everything, man. Back sore.
Necks,
you know what I mean?
necks.
Neck.
I always had neck crankers. Just
it always gets fucked up.
It's hysterical.
I found wrestling's one of those things, though. It makes you appreciate your body when it works so well, because you're just in such a car accident afterwards. Like, I don't want to feel like this when I'm older.
No.
Yeah.
I better get my shit together.
That strength that transitions from that is like this weird old man type of strength that you just don't get in different places too. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely tendon strength and stuff, right?
Yeah. It's a funny type of training. And again, man, like, I'm so appreciative. I say this all the time to people, is like, had I not had the opportunity to train, like, I wouldn't be in half the shape I'd be in. I probably wouldn't have, like, I mean, I always, like, I did start working out. Like, I remember sneaking to the gym, like, you know, like 13, 14. I forget the age was to go up to the gym at the Y there. But I remember sneaking in and enjoying that and getting into it. But, like, doing conditioning with you is what, like, I was like, whoa, like, look at these results. Like, I'm getting in shape, man.
And
like,
it goes both ways,
so
right?
Cool.
I'm training with the young bucks. Like, I gotta try to keep up, show these guys what's up.
Yeah, which is probably part of the reason you invited us to wrestle the odd time. Like, okay,
oh, you guys don't know how to wrestle? Here, jump on the mat. Full out.
I'll show you don't know how.
Yeah. And again, like, I'm so grateful, like, that I even have basic knowledge. You know, it's important, I think, to be confident in your body, confident in your abilities. Like, one thing I always say about having a basic understanding of certain combat sports, and that is, it's kind of, I always find it funny, it's like, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener.
Yeah,
right,
for sure.
All the time.
And like when that douchebag smacked your girlfriend's ass, and all of a sudden he's against a pole getting choked out. That's gotta feel good, man. That's gotta feel good,
and
right?
And to have none of his friends wanting to intervene because they're just like,
But you know what probably shined was your confidence. Like, I could do this, boys. You guys want to tango a little
Yeah.
bit? I've rolled around a bit.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's interesting because there's a lot about that mode, much we discussed about coping and like anger management and activeness. There's much of that like part of me doesn't like that side, but it's a side of me that I need to be comfortable and understanding about too.
Yeah.
There's no part of you that you're just going to disappear. So like, it's important to be able to manage that, and like the discipline of martial arts, the discipline of you know, like exerting yourself to like wanting to puke, and like learning how to do movement and feeling torque of punches and feeling what getting a good grip on someone and controlling their body's like.
Putting someone in a submissive position.
Yeah.
And then letting them off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you're about to die. I can kill you right now, but just joking.
Yeah,
just
friends. Joking. We'll drop this.
Yeah. Now you tried me.
Yeah. Just that awareness of like what it feels like to punch at something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not
feeling the connect.
I think that a lot of people have this idea that I can just punch someone. But there's fucking consequences. Like, you'll break your hand. You know? What happens when you punch that guy in the forehead? Your hand goes smash, and the guy's forehead's fine.
Yeah.
And you're
then
like,
what?
oh.
What are you going to punch him with?
And you threw a pill of a punch because you just figured it'd be easy.
Right. You know? And you don't have, it's like throwing a baseball after, you know, I don't know how to throw a baseball, I just flip my arm, right? But like, same thing.
Right? Grab a baseball with your wrong hand after not throwing for 10 years. Then
I
throw
think having this blind
punch.
confidence is more ignorance, really, but like, that's not good. It's good to know if you don't have the skill set, because you can either improve it or try to work around it to avoid using it, right? Like,
and much as you say, understanding the consequences make you far less apt to do something.
Sure.
Like if obviously this is like a hypothetical situation, like if theoretically everyone in the bar, all these like meatheads who are all horny and whatever else, all did jiu-jitsu, all did stand-up.
Horny.
Which a lot of them are. And don't get me wrong, once you get alcohol involved, it doesn't matter what sort of discipline you have sometimes, right?
Yeah.
But like, a lot of people would just choose not to get into fights because like, well,
I'm going to avoid it.
Yeah, fuck, like, I my face is pretty okay right now. I'm trying not to have broken face syndrome.
I can't afford to be more ugly, so I need to pause this.
I should stop this.
Everyone
like,
in here...
this guy might kick me in the head from 2 feet away. I
can for sure say the more violent I became capable of, the more peaceful I've been.
For sure, yeah.
I used to be a little nutbag when I was growing up and stuff. I'd be squirrely, want to fight at bars and stuff. Like, now that'd be the last thing I'd want to happen.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I could kill my older version.
Oh, yeah.
I would destroy me. If I ran into me 10 years ago, I would destroy that.
Just the confidence and collectiveness. Yeah, totally, man.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, because you practically would beat yourself up before he even beat you up.
Yeah.
Tried to beat you up.
Watch this.
Yeah, you think you can punch?
No, you just buy yourself a drink and be like, here you go, man. Just go chill out.
Just go be upset in the corner.
Go stop all this craziness.
Yeah.
Here's some hot broads. Go deal with them and just...
I'm going to go hang out with girls because I like them more than you.
We both like girls. We're both the same guy. So we don't change. Everything's still good.
Yeah.
Joke again.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers. Yeah.
And if you disagree, I will make you choke on your own teeth.
Yeah, because I'm better now.
Yeah. I do have that side. We'll just crack you if you're not going to be civil with me.
Yeah, and that's even it, like being able to be civil with people. I know Joel and I'm sure he's had the discussion with you before too. Like, there's something in accordance, like with even jiu-jitsu again. If theoretically, if everyone did jiu-jitsu and understood that, like, someone in this bar could just turn around and be on my back, monkey style, and I will be defensively unconscious, or maybe they'll just kill me.
Yeah.
Like, just to be aware of that is super important. And even, I know we've discussed that, like, if by some stupid odd chance I was being the instigator, drunk, stupid idiot trying to fight, I hope that the person who, you know, maybe knows what they're doing would just choke me out and let me go.
Yeah.
Rather than getting decked in the face. I'd take that.
Okay.
Quiet.
I was a dummy.
Yeah, I like a dummy. And then you know, you'll feel a little screwed up probably after, but it's a lot better than a headache the next day.
Right on Main Street, Grand Bend. We're going to the bar.
Yeah.
This guy's like, just starts being an idiot. Billy got two on one him.
Yeah.
Arm drag, spun him around, choked him out, laid him nicely on the sidewalk. We all kept walking.
Yeah. Yeah, which could have ended up being like a 3-person kick on the ground.
Yeah,
not to say that you were the type of people, but
but it could have been.
It could have been.
Could have been.
The wrong group. You could have been like.
That's the person you want to run into if you're out of your brains.
If you're being stupid,
you have that off night, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the person because, again, understanding the consequences. I would rather be choked out and laid on my side than get decked in the face unconscious and wake up with a splitting concussion headache and a mangled face.
Been there too, in your face.
Yeah.
right?
Well,
Yeah.
Ruddle, the paramedic he was talking about before, I have a connection with him because he's driven me in the ambulance. He was my paramedic, attending to me as I was knocked out, going to the hospital.
Right.
Well, I wasn't knocked out anymore, but
Yeah. Once you guys made the
he's
connection,
like,
anyway,
yeah,
so you
you
still
know
had
my buddy Vozzy. I'm like, yeah, man.
still had the herewithal that you could discuss that.
You seem all right. Yeah, I think so. I think I'm all right.
Do you have any, like, we'll say, takeaway or advice that you could offer to anybody listening and from your life path thus far?
Well, yeah.
Kind of a large question, but
Yeah, it is. I mean, I always try to be as articulate as possible. But, like, I mean, again, much I said earlier, like, we need to, and don't get me wrong, all of us are awful at listening to our own advice. But, like, yeah, we need to not take life so seriously. There's a certain importance about a lot of the little things, man.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people don't relish in moments. Even the three of us down in the sun today, like, that sort of moment doesn't necessarily exist for people because they don't have the time and space of mind to do things like that, right? So, yeah, those sorts of things are all really important. And much as we had mentioned about the self-awareness, like, obviously that's a huge attribute to being an improving and evolving individual. Is like, you, as much as we appreciate our friends and all of our family who will light fires in our asses, at the end of the day, it's what you take from their fire, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just an important thing. We got to be peaceful, happy people, man. And, you know, like, amongst being peaceful and happy, as we just touched on, you know, sometimes that does mean having an understanding of violence. Maybe that does mean that being a part of your exertion, being a part of your coping, you know, like, peace. Much as we had talked about, like, there's balance, like, no, it's not how it works. You got to be able to pendulum back and forth.
pendulum is really,
And you got to adapt to the either side. Sometimes we're in the bathroom looking at a mirror as we're internally screaming at ourselves. Sometimes we're outside smashing weights and punching bags, and then sometimes we're chilling, looking into the sun of the beach with our eyes closed.
just fucking
like
loving
this.
every minute of it, man.
You got a pendulum. You got to enjoy it. And again, man, simple things, which as we talked, without the lows, like, and of course, like, some people have more lows than highs, but take it. Like, that, you would never understand the highs if you didn't know.
And that's just it, I feel like people have this common perception that they can understand situations they hear about because it's like, oh, I can picture that happening to me. But, like, 95% of the things around a situation is what make the situation. So, if I punch you in the nose, everyone can imagine what that's going to feel like.
Yeah.
But it's everything else. It's like, well, now my hand's busted. Now your nose is busted.
Yeah.
Now your orbital bone is crushed. And all these things, it's like, you wouldn't know about that if you've never been there and got smashed in the nose or punched someone in the nose. So, but it's just in life in general, it's like, oh, I can imagine this happened to me. That's going to be pretty tough. It's like, that part was easy.
Yeah.
It was 6 months after with all the shit you will never understand.
Yeah.
Because it didn't happen to you. It'll never happen to anyone else the same. Everyone is unique in the experience. But, like, that's the part that we learn from. And people don't think, we don't have the capacity to try and project that out, right? So
yeah, it takes a certain individual to do that. And I suppose, like, a saying that I love to use, I'm quite sure it was from a Jason Statham movie. However, great. Is
if you haven't watched Jason Statham movies, you should. They're awesome.
Yeah, great. Especially Crank.
Anyway.
It's good judgment comes from experience, and experience from bad judgment. And that's that low to high. That's that you got to experience to have a judgment at all. You have to experience. It's
beautiful.
Just, I've always thought, I was like,
How insightful, Jason.
It's been a treat, man. Your outlook is great, you know, especially I totally agree with you with just keep it simple, enjoy the small things, you know, see the big picture, but
just be a good person.
I think your great outlook is shaped by all the shitty things you've seen too, right? So it's awesome, man. This has been a great,
super important.
We actually recorded 2 podcasts. I don't even know if we touched the same shit.
I know.
Yeah. But I remember it was bright and sunny outside. Now it's pitch black.
I've been super eager to get on this. I know you've been doing this podcast for a while, and it's interesting because I love the contrast of conversations, right? So it's
I appreciate that.
I'm really stoked that you guys gave me that opportunity.
Dude,
so.
great to have you on. Like
you.
you're my lifesaver guy. You know, like if there's one guy depending to keep me alive, it's Vozzy.
Yeah.
Right? Whether that's giving me good information. Well, Muscle Bill is my other one on that one.
Yeah.
Where if I need
Depends on
opinion, it's
the-
either honestly. I got two of my best friends here. If I needed an opinion on something, I'd probably message either you.
Yeah.
Right? If it was a health thing, I'd probably message you. If
Yeah.
it was like, is this gonna...
What's the situation?
If it's a little crazy, I might ask Bill a little bit.
yeah, totally. And again, even to that side on your behalf, I mean, you're part of there's that team that you discussed. There's apocalyptic team that I'm like, again, there's
That's
these,
right,
there's these
right?
packs,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, exactly. I got you. man.
Yeah, we
I
all
you.
got it. Yeah, it's all these.
No, I'm
forms.
super happy you got on, man. It's been a slice, and you're a stand-up guy, and I value your opinion and your outlook and stuff. And I think if a lot of people, and hopefully the people listening, start sharing those same values, same outlook, that they're gonna become better people.
Yeah,
For sure, a better world.
Right? Yeah,
totally.
exactly. Like Elon Musk said in his podcast, and I think it was the first Joe Rogan podcast. At the end, Joe Rogan's like, same thing as you just touched with Vozzy. Is there anything you want to say to everybody? Now you got the world's attention.
Yeah.
And he could have said anything. He's got all these $billion companies and all that shit.
Yeah.
All he said was, "Love is the answer."
Yeah.
And it was so crazy to see, because that's not like me. Like, I don't give a shit, right? Give my steak, I don't give a shit. But he's right, man. Love is the answer. You can fucking throw it every which way you want to, but essentially that's what it is, man. Whether it's being empathetic or not stressing, helping people out over certain things. Maybe it's not so much to them, but you know, you got to share people's.
And bringing it back around, as you mentioned too, it's like just being able to show people that you care, right? And like it's all about the people, and that's not only in your job but in everything, right? You need to be aware enough that like you could be the best or worst part of anyone's day that you meet.
Yeah.
Right? And that's a really impactful thing if you sit down and think about it.
Totally. And I mean,
So
I think it's a very deeply ingrained genetic thing to us to some extent, because I heard this once, is that part of the thing that makes us so human, I think, particularly like in the very primitive kind of caveman states, was we cared for another human and like got them, like, and not like in illness or injury, like more often than not, like every other animal in their illness or injury, no other animal cares necessarily for one. I'm sure there is. I shouldn't say no other animal.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are. I don't know that for certain. But like something that made us superhuman is like,
we're not zoologers.
No, we're not zoologers at all. But yeah, something that made us superhuman is that we had the capacity to think, yo, if I help this almost dead human because it got like gnawed by a tiger or some shit, then I'm still gonna have a human here.
Yeah.
Like, this is good. This is good. This is these are good things. Like,
Great success.
Yeah, it's good success.
I don't know why,
Yeah,
but
these are
hi,
good
Fred.
things.
You're my new
You
friend.
can help me hunt the tiger.
Yeah, now
right?
you can help me stay
That-
alive
this
more.
won't
Like,
be
this
me.
is good. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
So,
I
I
get it,
mean,
man.
that's I think that's something that's obviously long forgotten. So
No, that's great. No, it's good to have you on. I don't see you very often. Like in really over the years, we haven't had a lot of opportunities to sit down and talk and in depth, right? So it's nice to get together. Today was a great day.
Hell yeah.
And
Sunshine. It was great,
sunshine,
man.
yeah.
Jumping
We'll get
in
down
the
your way and do like, I don't know, some kind of.
Yeah, we could even get some of the Beach Patrol fellows on to just.
Oh, that'd be dope,
That'd be
man.
cool. Have a big guest.
I'm
guest.
all
Kinda
down.
like-
chat.
This is not a picture into my life at all, but I'm all down to have like a group setting thing going on this. Like,
It'd be sweet, man.
Yeah.
it'd be sweet.
Imagine having a few more of the boys from the...
Yeah,
the-
sure.
Shoot the
because
shit,
it's
man.
like
That's the whole part of the whole deal. Fitness and
And some of them are freaks.
Side of
Like,
bullshit.
you was talking about Noah. Noah does one-handed planks at the beach,
Yeah.
man. Like, flies in the air with one
Oh,
hand. I don't
yeah.
know. He does crazy stuff, man.
Yeah, dynamics. One's a pilot. Another, like, lots of paramedics. Like, man, like, yeah, it's.
One's a good rugby
Yeah.
player.
Yeah, one's a fantastic rugby player, fantastic
Yeah,
athlete.
it'd be cool. It'd be cool to get you all on.
Oh yeah,
Get
there's a
all
bunch of
lined up.
guys.
I'd get too excited though. Want to get crazy with you guys seeing everybody.
Yeah, well, I mean,
back
that even
together.
might be part of it too. You know, like Christ, maybe it could get into a little some silly
We'll see if
talk.
we can
So
get Ali back down to get some video or something.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It'd be cool. But,
yeah,
No, it's great.
yeah. Well, thank
How
you
do
guys
people
for-
get a hold of you if they want to? I don't know if they want to.
Well, of course, I mean,
guy, you want to do any of that, or you want?
Yeah,
to
I mean, I think
quiet?
most of my social media is pretty open for the most part. I'm not like
Yeah.
a terribly active person on it and that, but I do have some good content to that extent in terms of like just again, just happy things.
What is it
like,
though?
In terms of like
Your Instagram handle is
what is my Instagram? I don't know. Aaron Voskamp. I presume.
I always look for
so.
Vozzy and I never find you. So
I think it's like Avoz6. I have no idea, man.
Whatever.
But yeah,
Anyways,
Aaron,
I'm sure
Aaron
he's tagged
Voskamp.
on some of my stuff somewhere.
Yeah, you
Either
can find
way.
me in some of Joel's stuff. I'm often in some of his stories.
Yeah.
Of course. Always send me a message. Like I think a lot of those lines are all open. Send me a message. I'm always happy to chat with people. Like, especially it's neat being able to pass on whatever you can to others, right? So
Sick.
yeah.
Well, we appreciate your time, man,
And vice versa. Thank you guys for your time.
and always, you want to make an appointment, donate some blood.
Donate blood.
'Cause you can save a life. Not quite the same as you do, but
No, you
you
still-
also need some of that sometimes. So
Yeah.
that's,
Yep. And
Fuel Vozzy's truck.
yeah, help him fill his stock.
our ambulance run on blood. So
That's right. Not like a vampire, but they don't drink.
no, kind of like what's that desert movie?
Dust Till Dawn.
No, with all the crazy vehicles
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that.
yeah. Mad Max.
Yeah, Mad Max, where those guys all run off like
I didn't see that yet.
things. No, great movie.
I want to live in that era,
Yeah.
man. It sounds looks crazy.
Yeah, post-apocalyptic, man.
Anyways,
That's
give
fucking-
blood, guys.
Anyway, give blood, make an appointment. Nobody's getting tattooed except for right now. Today they're starting to open up. So
Fuck yeah.
give blood real quick.
Yeah.
And then get tattooed because tattoos are great.
Thanks, everybody. Hope
Back
you
from
enjoyed.
Meathead.
You.
Bye.
Bye.
Yes.